Fort Ravenwood, Arizona. Dust swirled over the yard. A combat drill unfolds paint rounds, alarms, soldiers falling fast. But in one corner, Staff Sergeant Marissa Kane sits cross-legged, eyes shut, breathing calm. Her squad sees a liability. Instructors see failure. Then the gate opens. A black SUV enters. A commander steps out, voice sharp as steel. He gives a single order, and the soldier they mocked as sleepwalker finally opens her eyes. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. Gunfire rattled through plywood walls. Soldiers shouted. Paint rounds smacking against helmets and vests. 3 men went down in seconds, alarms buzzing. In the far corner, Staff Sergeant Marissa Kane sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing slow. She looked asleep in the middle of combat, and outside the gate, a black SUV rolled through the dust. Dark windows, government plates, every head on the range turned, cut, rewind. Hours earlier, the desert at Fort Ravenwood woke early. By 0530, the air already burned, carrying grit that clung to your teeth. The cracked asphalt of the training yard shimmered like molten glass. Marissa stepped off the transport van with one duffel bag on her shoulder. No wasted movement, no small talk with the other arrivals. Boots down, head forward, like she had walked this road before. Around her, soldiers cursed the heat and shouldered heavy rucks. She stayed quiet. The admin clerk barely glanced up. Clipboard, gum chewing, bored voice. Barrack to where bunk 28. Chow at 0630. Formation at 0800. Don't be late. Marissa took the key card, nodded once, and walked. She didn't rush. She didn't shuffle. Just that steady pace that seemed immune to hurry. Inside the barracks, the smell of disinfectant fought with decades of boot leather and dust. Rows of metal bunks faced each other like mirrors. No privacy, no comfort. She chose the corner bunk against the wall, 3 steps from the emergency exit. From there, she had a clear line to both doors. She set her duffel down with quiet precision. Old instincts. Always know your exits. Always sleep where you can run. At chow, she sat alone, tray by the window, food arranged into neat sections, fork placed parallel to the edge, handle facing her right hand. She ate in slow, measured bites. 3 tables away, Lieutenant Parker Vance laughed loud enough for the whole hall. His uniform crisp, his teeth too perfect, his swagger unearned. Around him sat Corbin Ellis, built like a wrestler, Jonah Briggs, sharp-eyed and restless, and Tyler Holt, fidgeting like a live wire. Vance made sure his words carried. Some of us earn our way here. Others, well, maybe someone felt sorry for them. Ellis chuckled. Briggs smirked. Holt barked a laugh, just a little too loud. Marissa walked past with her empty tray. The laughter followed. She didn't answer. She didn't look back. She just filed their faces away. The rifle range stretched under a brass-colored sky. Heat shimmered. Silhouettes stood at 180 meters. Easy shots for anyone with a record. Shooters, 10 targets, 30 rounds, 3 minutes. Make-ready bolts snapped forward. Safeties clicked. The whistle blew. 30 rifles thundered downrange. Brass casings rained into the dirt. Targets shuddered with impact. Instructors walked the line with clipboards. Marissa raised her weapon. Sight picture steady. Breathing perfect. Finger resting near the trigger. Then she lowered the rifle. Calm. Expression unchanged. She never fired. The ceasefire whistle blew. Her target stood untouched, like it had been hanging there for years. The instructor's jaw tightened. Kane, you plan on joining us? Or just sightseeing, shooting? Sergeant? Her voice was flat, quiet. Then shoot. Second string. Same story. Rifle up. Form perfect. Weapon down. No rounds fired. By the time the range went cold, Whispers trailed her back to the shed. Ellis muttered something about falsified records. Holt laughed about transfer skills not transferring. Vance smirked. Marissa walked on, unbothered. The obstacle course chewed up soldiers daily. 14 obstacles. 25 minutes to finish. Whistle blew. Squads surged forward. Sand sprayed. Boots pounded. Grunts echoed. The 8-foot wall loomed. Ellis muscled his way up, landing hard on the far side. Briggs scaled with practiced speed. Holt scrambled after. Vance went over with loud confidence. Marissa approached the wall, stood still for 3 seconds, then sat down cross-legged in the dirt. Eyes closed, hands resting on her knees, breathing steady. "Move it!" Kane Vance shouted from the other side. She didn't move. Other squads streamed around her, cursing, panting, clawing their way forward. She stayed seated, calm as stone. 15 minutes later, her squad stumbled back drenched in sweat and grit. She rose without hurry, dusted off her trousers, and jogged to fall back into formation. No explanation, no apology. Vance ripped his helmet off. Face red, jaw tight. "Outstanding. Hope the enemy waits while you nap." A few soldiers chuckled. Holt muttered, "Dead weight." Marissa stared forward, expression unreadable. Urban combat drills hit harder. 2-story plywood houses, narrow alleys, stairwells, corners, hostage scenarios with civilian role players. It was as close as you got to real combat without bullets. The squad lined up at Building Bravo, simunitions locked and loaded. The instructor's briefing was clipped. 15 minutes. Hostages alive. Civilians untouched. Move fast. Move clean. Vance assigned positions. Ellis, you're on the ram. Briggs, cover my 6. Holt, rear security. Kane. His paws held open contempt. Just try to keep up. The ram slammed into the door. Hinges shrieked. Squad flowed in. Marissa entered last. She stepped into the first room and sat down in the corner. Eyes closed, breathing slow. Inside 30 seconds, the squad collapsed. Ellis took a hit to the chest. Briggs froze in a doorway, paint round across his shoulder. Holt went down from upstairs fire. Vance fought alone, paint splattering across his helmet. The buzzer screamed. Red lights flashed. Simulation over. Vance ripped his helmet off, stormed at her. "You didn't fire 1 round. We're dead because of you." She opened her eyes, stood, brushed sawdust from her uniform. Rear security was maintained. His laugh cracked. "We're all dead. Kane, what world is that security?" The instructor stepped in before it escalated, but his voice was ice. "One more failure, and you're gone." "Yes, Sergeant," she answered, flat, calm. By evening, the nickname stuck, Sleepwalker. Whispers carried it across the chow hall. Nap time, dead weight. She ignored it, ate alone, cleaned her gear with methodical precision. But Chief Warrant Officer Grant Mercer had been watching. He saw the weapon layout on her bunk, every piece aligned, magazine lips inspected, bolts polished. He saw her hands running silent manipulation drills when she thought no one looked. Those weren't the hands of someone who'd quit. Those were reflexes sharpened by years in dangerous places. Mercer leaned against the doorway, arms folded, studying her. Something didn't add up. To most, she was the soldier who slept through drills. To him, she was a puzzle waiting to be solved. The nickname spread fast. Sleepwalker. It echoed in the canteen like a joke that never got old. Nap time, someone called as Marissa stepped into line. Another voice answered with a chuckle. Dead weight reporting for duty. She didn't react. She carried her tray, picked a seat by the window, and began eating with slow precision. Every bite the same size, every utensil placed at the same angle. Her eyes drifted across the hall, scanning corners, doors, reflections in the glass. She looked more like a security camera than a soldier at breakfast. Lieutenant Vance leaned back with his entourage. He spoke louder than necessary. She should get her own program. Call it Pillow Ops. Ellis laughed so hard his fork clattered. Holt smirked and added, Special Nap Forces. Even Briggs allowed himself a grin. Marissa didn't even glance at them. She finished her meal, stacked her tray, and left. Calm, silent, detached. But Mercer's eyes followed her. He'd been watching since the first day. He caught the tiny detail most missed, a strip of faded rubber band snug on her wrist. She batted it with her thumb when her eyes closed. Just a snap of tension and release. A rhythm, a pulse. Later, during inspection, he noticed a coin, tarnished brass, worn edges from years of handling. She rolled it across her knuckles with effortless reflex, not a nervous tick muscle memory. Mercer wrote it down in his small notebook. Control tools. Self-regulation, not fatigue. That afternoon, another drill. The squad loaded rifles for a live simulation run. The air smelled of burnt powder and oil. Holt snapped a magazine into place too quickly. Something jammed. Jonah Briggs aimed, squeezed, and his weapon locked. A sharp click. Silence. His eyes went wide. A second later, the barrel began to smoke from trapped gas. Before anyone else noticed, Marissa spoke. Calm. Eyes still shut. Switch mag. Now. Jonah yanked the magazine free and slammed a new one home. The jam cleared with a loud clack. The weapon cooled before it could become a hazard. He stared at her, stunned. How did you? She said nothing, just pulled the rubber band once, closed her eyes again. Mercer jotted another note. Not negligence, sensory control, listening instead of firing, but the others only saw refusal. Vance barked. You think you're clever? That could have been a disaster, Jonah muttered thanks under his breath, but Holt cut him off. Don't encourage her. She's just guessing. Marissa ignored them all. The next morning, the cadre lined the squad up on the asphalt. Sun high, rifles slung, sweat already beading. The senior instructor paced slowly. His tone was sharp as barbed wire. Ward, this is your final warning. Another failure, and you're gone. No appeals, no paperwork delays. Gone. Marissa met his eyes. Yes, Sergeant. Her voice was steady. No protest, no defense, just that quiet flatness that made people more furious. Vance stepped forward, jaw clenched. He leaned close, his voice loud enough for the squad. Hear that? Kane, one more nap and your history. Sleep through it again, and you'll bury the whole team. Ellis laughed under his breath. Holt added, better hope the enemy brings pillows. Even Briggs, usually cautious, muttered, she's going to get us killed. The squad believed it. Their disgust hung heavy, thicker than the heat. By evening, the tension followed her everywhere. In the barracks, silence filled the air when she entered. Conversations died mid-sentence. Holt whispered sleepwalker just loud enough for her to hear. Vance smirked, polishing his boots like he was above the world. Ellis shook his head in disgust. Marissa unpacked her weapon on the bunk. Bolt carrier, springs, pins, each piece cleaned, inspected, aligned in a straight line. She worked without hesitation, her breathing even. Mercer lingered at the doorway, watching. She wasn't sloppy. She wasn't tired. She was methodical. Every action exact, efficient, professional. He scribbled another line. Habits of a survivor, not a quitter. Later, outside the mess hall. Jonah caught up to her. His voice was awkward, low. You saved me today. With the jam, I don't know how you... She stopped him with a glance. Not hostile, just still. Then she walked on. He hesitated, then muttered, doesn't matter. They'll never see it. He turned back before anyone noticed their exchange. The days stacked up, and the contempt deepened. Whispers became normal. Mockery became routine. Every formation, every march. She felt the stares, and yet she kept the same steady pace, the same deliberate calm. Vance pushed harder. Instructors glared colder. The squad grew more convinced she was a liability waiting to explode. And Mercer, notebook in hand, wrote just one phrase in thick pencil strokes: "Something doesn't fit." The pressure cooker was ready to burst. Everyone believed dismissal was coming. The only question was whether it would happen quietly or if Marissa Kane would crack in front of them all. The desert heat pressed down, suffocating, and the countdown had begun. The final evaluation carried weight heavier than armor. Fail here, and a soldier's record turned to ash. 20 minutes, multiple plywood buildings, hostages inside, unknown number of armed role players waiting. The whistle shrieked. The squad surged forward. Boots pounded across gravel, weapons tight in sweaty hands. Lieutenant Vance rammed the first door open. He moved like he wanted the world to see his confidence. Ellis fired bursts too wide, chewing up corners of plywood. Briggs charged after him, rounds spitting blue paint and rapid sprays. The first role player appeared in a window and tagged Ellis square in the chest. Alarm blared. He was out. Briggs followed him down seconds later, caught from the flank. His helmet lit with a splash of paint. Vance shouted commands that no one heard. The chaos drowned him. Tyler Holt tried to cut the angle, but a stairwell ambush dropped him with a single round to the vest. He groaned, hands raised in surrender. And in the shadow of the first room, Marissa Kane sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing steady. She looked asleep. Again, from the observation platform, Chief Warrant Officer Grant Mercer watched in silence. His notes meant nothing now. The squad was collapsing. Around him, instructors shook their heads, already writing her dismissal in their minds. Then the gravel outside the gate crunched beneath tires. A black SUV rolled through the dust cloud. Tinted windows, government plates, the kind of vehicle that turned heads without asking permission. Doors opened. Out stepped Commander Alan Cross, late 40s, weathered face, eyes that measured everything. His uniform bore no decoration beyond essentials. He didn't need them. Every soldier on the yard straightened instinctively. Cross walked with deliberate stride, boots sinking into gravel with steady rhythm. He reached Mercer without looking at anyone else. His voice was firm, level. "Chief Mercer." Mercer stood taller. "Commander Cross." "Sir, I'm not here to review," Cross said. "I'll run one scenario." "Not review, activate." Mercer blinked. He knew the word. Activate. He understood the weight it carried. Cross stepped to the edge of the observation line. His gaze locked on the plywood building where chaos reigned. Then his voice cut across the range, clear as a blade. Kane echo recall. Engage. For one heartbeat, silence swallowed the building. The sound of paint rounds, shouts, alarms all muted as if someone pressed pause. A single click echoed. Safety off. Marissa's eyes opened. She rose in one fluid motion. The lethargy vanished. Precision replaced it. Her rifle came to shoulder like it had been waiting there. The muzzle tracked the doorway before it even opened. A role player burst through, weapon raised. Marissa fired 2 controlled shots. Paint snapped center mass. Target down. She flowed through the room without pause. Her steps were liquid, soundless. She cut angles before they formed. Another hostile leaned from a window. She fired once. Perfect placement. He staggered, hit light flashing red. Vance, sprawled on the floor with his fatal hit, stared in disbelief. The woman he mocked for weeks had transformed into something terrifying. Marissa cleared the stairwell in seconds. Her body hugged the wall, muzzle leading, breath measured. On the landing, she paused. Light sliced through slats of wood, bouncing in dusty shafts. She shifted her angle, watched the beams scatter. The dust betrayed movement, a shadow where no shadow should be. She pivoted, fired. A role player fell before his ambush triggered. She advanced, hand braced against the doorframe. The hinges were old, loud. She pressed just right, catching them in tension. The door swung open without a squeak. Her squadmates on the floor below could only stare. On the second floor, two hostiles waited at intersecting corners. They thought they had her boxed. Marissa fired twice while moving between them, shots placed with surgical accuracy. Both men froze, marked out. She never broke stride. Every step, every trigger press, looked rehearsed 1,000 times. Instructors stopped writing. Clipboards hung loose at their sides. Finally, the hostage room. Two role players, one civilian bound to a chair between them. Vance had struggled with this scenario for weeks. Most squads failed here. The geometry was unforgiving. Marissa assessed in a glance. One breath in, shoulders square. Her eyes measured backdrop, angles, ricochet risk. Then she moved. One step left, rifle raised, 2 shots. Both hostiles dropped. Paint bloomed against their chests. The civilian role player froze, wide-eyed, then slowly lifted his arms in the signal for secured. The alarm tone blared long and clear. Mission accomplished. Marissa lowered her weapon, breathing even, calm once more. She checked the hostage's restraints, guided him up, and signaled all clear. The observation deck stayed silent. No one clapped. No one cheered. They simply stood, dumbstruck, as if they had watched a ghost materialize and vanish. Clipboards slipped from limp hands. Stopwatches dangled forgotten. Vance pulled his helmet off, paint dripping from the impact site. His mouth opened, but no words came. Only fear. Ellis shook his head slowly, as though trying to erase what he had seen. Briggs whispered, "What?" Was that Holt stayed silent, still sitting on the floor with his wound. Marissa didn't answer. She simply reset the safety, cleared her chamber, and walked past them. Eyes forward, expression unreadable. Cross turned away from the platform. His mission was done. But Mercer knew everything had changed. The soldier they had mocked as a liability had just dismantled an entire scenario single-handed, and she had done it with the precision of a weapon kept locked until someone spoke the right command. For weeks, she had sat silent, eyes closed, breathing steady. Now, one word had woken her, and no one watching would ever forget it. The debrief room was small, windowless, and cold. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above. The air smelled of bleach and gun oil. Marissa Kane sat at a folding table. Her rifle lay in pieces before her, each component arranged with surgical precision. Her hands moved steadily, cleaning, inspecting, reassembling. Across from her sat Commander Alan Cross and Chief Grant Mercer. Both men watched closely, but for different reasons. Cross broke the silence first. His voice carried no drama, just weight. Echo Recall Program. 18 months in places without names. 0 friendly casualties. 100% extractions. Mercer blinked. He'd heard whispers about units that didn't exist. Now one sat across from him, wiping carbon from a firing pin like it was any other day. Cross continued. Their conditioning requires authorization. Without the phrase, they remain dormant. With it, they operate at full capability. Marissa slid the bolt carrier into place. Calm, silent. Mercer pulled something from his pocket, a brass coin. He rolled it across the table. It spun, wobbled, started to fall. Marissa's hand shot out. She caught it mid-drop without looking. Reflex. Mercer exhaled. Guard dog on a leash. He murmured. Only bites when told. Cross nodded once. Exactly. The door creaked. Lieutenant Parker Vance stepped inside. His face was pale, eyes unsettled. He carried his helmet like it weighed 100 pounds. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Finally, he managed. Then he stopped. Words failed. Cross turned his gaze on him, steady as iron. Lieutenant, you won't apologize. That's not your assignment. Vance stiffened. Sir, you'll draft a new SOP, Cross said. Procedures for handling operatives under special conditioning, activation, supervision, integration. Every line of failure accounted for. The humiliation stung sharper than any rebuke. Vance swallowed hard. Understood. It wasn't forgiveness. It was reckoning. A system correcting itself through paperwork that would carry his name forever. Marissa finished reassembling her rifle. Each click of the pins locked into place. She folded a rag, set it aside, and then looked up. Cross leaned back. His tone softened, but only slightly. You're being reassigned. Special Operations Training Command. Not as a student, as an instructor. Her eyes flickered. Surprise, maybe, but her voice was flat. Wherever you need me, but not as a showpiece. No showpieces, Cross replied. Just teaching, passing it on. Mercer shifted in his seat. Why not keep her in the field if she's that effective? Cross cut him off gently. Because people like her have already given enough. They've lived in the shadows, carried the weight, done what others couldn't. At some point, they earned the right to train the next generation. The room fell silent. Even Mercer had no argument left. That night, the barracks felt different. No whispers followed her through the hall. No smirks. No mocking names. Silence greeted her steps. Ellis and Holt sat by the door, gear half-packed. When she passed, both men stood, not to salute, not to speak, just to move aside. Respect in its quietest form. Briggs kept his eyes down, polishing his weapon with nervous energy. Vance sat at his bunk, scribbling furiously into a notebook labeled Draft SOP. His jaw was set in grim resolve. Marissa packed her duffel with the same calm she carried everywhere. No rush, no ceremony. Outside, the desert night stretched wide and endless. The air smelled of dust cooling under moonlight. She stepped out into the yard. The black SUV idled near the gate, headlights throwing pale beams across the asphalt. Cross stood by the open door, waiting. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Marissa walked toward him, duffel slung over one shoulder, each step steady, each step final. At the gate she paused, turned once toward the barracks. Rows of windows glowed faintly, shadows shifting inside. No one dared call her sleepwalker now. She turned back, climbed into the SUV. The door closed with a heavy thud. Moments later, and the vehicle rolled out into the night, its taillights fading into the desert horizon. There were no medals, no speeches, no applause, just departure. But Mercer, watching from a distance, knew the story would linger. He had seen a soldier awakened by one word. He had seen a program the world wasn't supposed to know existed, and he knew the price she carried. The next morning, training continued as if nothing had changed. New squads assembled. New drills began, but whispers circulated among those who had been there. Whispers about what it meant to sit across from someone who looked ordinary until they weren't. And the question grew in the back of every mind, how many more were out there? Soldiers moving through life like shadows, waiting for the right phrase to unlock what they really were. Mercer closed his notebook, the final page carrying only one line, "Sleepwalkers exist." The story ended quietly, but it left something unsettled. Because for 2 weeks, everyone believed Marissa Kane was broken. For 2 weeks, they mocked her, dismissed her, wrote her off. Then a single command revealed the truth. And once you've seen someone wake like that, you never forget it. The desert sun rose on Fort Ravenwood. Another day, another cycle of drills. But somewhere beyond those walls, Marissa Kane was already teaching. Her knowledge would spread, invisible but sharp, like an unseen current shaping the tide. No banners, no headlines. Just one soldier passing on what only a few would ever understand. And for us, the viewers, the question remains, how many quiet professionals walk among us? Unseen, underestimated. How many live like sleepwalkers, waiting for one command to remind them who they really are, maybe more than we realize. If you've ever met someone who seemed ordinary until they weren't, drop your story in the comments. And if this story made you see the sleepwalker differently, hit like. subscribe, and share it, because sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones you never notice until it's too late.